Hey, Michael, you're on mute.
Hi, Beth.
Hey, this is James, actually.
Hey, James. How you doing, man?
Good, what's going on?
All right. You want to try see if I can share my screen?
Yeah, you know what? Someone named Carolyn Connolly just joined us, and I wonder if the settings are just still allowing people
Okay,
in. But it is recording, I can see that.
got it.
So let me just make sure that you have screen share. Um, yep, so you should be able to share your screen. Yep, there we go. Beautiful.
And so, James, when I have my screen up, it does not. I can't really see who's coming in.
So I'm taking care of that.
Okay, cool.
Looks like we have a woman named Carolyn Connolly. He's joined us. There's some other folks starting to come in, so we should probably.
Great. Well, I'm ready. Whenever you can just let me know, cue me up when. Hi, John. You can just cue it up when Beth, and if you see Laura coming in as well, and then we'll get started right around maybe like 6:01.
Great. And I saw that Beth just joined
Are we
us.
just,
I just unmuted Beth.
hi guys.
How are
Hey,
you?
Beth, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing
Good.
wonderful, thank you.
It just
Good.
just so everyone knows, it looks like meeting guests are coming in without needing to be admitted, and we have a handful of folks that are online with us at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, we'll get started in just a few minutes, everyone. Thank you for getting here a few minutes early. And Beth, we're good to go. And as soon as we hit the sort of 6:01 mark, we can, and Laura comes on board, we can get started.
Good. I am looking forward to this.
Absolutely.
I'm going to mute guys for just a second though, if that's okay, and just talk to Sandy right here. If you need me, just holler.
Wonderful. For those of you that are coming in, we're going to start around 6:01. So thanks for hanging tight with us. video. For those of you that are just joining, this is Michael Huckabee. We'll be starting in about 3 minutes. And if you don't mind, if you could have your Zoom on mute as we start out, that'd be great. Thanks. We're just going to wait about 90 more seconds, everybody, and then we'll get started. Appreciate your patience. All right, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully everybody can hear me. James, if you're running to some of the background, if you can just say you can hear me, as well as Beth.
All good.
All good. Fantastic. Beth, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Michael.
All right. Hopefully we'll have Laura that'll joining us momentarily, but we're going to go ahead and kick this off. So first off, I just want to welcome everybody for joining this really unique experience this evening. At least if you're on the East Coast, if you're on the West Coast, you still have a little bit of the day to go. But I'm Michael Huckabee. I'm founder of LifeRamp. And what is LifeRamp? LifeRamp is, for us, is a next generation virtual platform that really delivers on-demand life coaching and career planning resources. It's primarily for people like you, people that are either going to college or in college, as well as young professionals, and really trying to help them navigate and accelerate their paths toward a fulfilling and successful future. So today, what we're going to do, we're going to explore how you can find your inner genius, which I think is really important for everybody. And I think the earlier you can find out that in life, the better. And so before we get started, just a couple of things, sort of stating the obvious, but we're in unprecedented times right now. I mean, the last 90 days, the tectonic plates have moved such for not only, kids that are graduating high school, young adults that are in college, and even for adults, it's been sort of the perfect storm, if you will. So, if I think of my own family and own daughter and her friends, the uncertainty is palatable. No graduation, no sports in the spring, no prom, wondering if, hey, is college going to start in the fall? So, and, if you add on top of that more recently our country is really now having to look itself in the mirror and unpack the issues and really find a way how to build a bridge to the future. And the good news I really believe is for young people, I'm extremely optimistic for the class of 2020. We'll be able to help drive that innovation and ultimate change. And this evening, what we really want to do is to celebrate yourself, celebrate the success you've had to date, and really look to the future about how you're going to be able to further ignite your inner genius. So this evening, we're lucky enough to have Beth Chesterton. Beth is a LifeRamp mentor and master coach. And Beth has worked with Fortune 500 companies and with young adults really over the past 20 years, and really helping companies and young adults maximize their potential. Beth happens to also be the creator of the Ignite method, which you'll take us through, and you'll get a little sneak peek on that tonight. Beth is a graduate of Vanderbilt University. In addition, this evening, we're going to have a special guest. We're fortunate enough to have a special guest, Laura DeSaro. Laura is the co-founder and CEO of Chirps. You may have heard of Chirps if you ever watched Shark Tank. I'm a big fanatic of Shark Tank, so I'm very familiar with Chirps. Laura is also a Forbes 30 under 30 and also Guinness Book of World Record holder. Laura is a graduate of Harvard. And what I would like to do now is really turn this over to Beth, who's really going to be the host for the next 45 minutes. So Beth, if it works for you, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Michael. And I am so happy to be here with each of you. And I just want to say that I've been seeing some text come across my screen where some people aren't able to get in. And I want to make sure everybody checks their text to see that their friends and family who want to be here are getting the code to get in. So with that said, thanks for having me. So before we get started with our incredible guest, Laura DeSaro, let's talk a little bit about the Ignite method and what is the Ignite method. So the Ignite method is about discovering your genius, understanding what it is in you, your strengths, your talents, your gifts, your passions, but truly getting your arms around who you are at your best. Why would we do that? Well, so that we can live the life and the career that we can only dream about. Here's a secret that I'm pretty sure you don't know, and that is that you don't see your genius, you don't see your gifts You can't see yourself without the help of others. That's really the foundation of the Ignite method. So why is that? And it's because what you do that adds value, that's totally compelling, and we're compelling and repelling at every given moment. And when we're compelling, it's like you want to stop the action and deconstruct. What is it about you that's so compelling right now? That's part of the Ignite method. And we've learned something, that the discovery of what is most compelling about you is actually really valuable work. Not only does it help you move towards what it is you want to make happen, but it really feels good. It builds confidence. It builds optimism. It strengthens you in terms of your resilience. And God knows we all need resilience right now. And in the world that this young group of people who have worked so hard, they're entering into a world where they need all the resilience they can get and the optimism. You need it. And we have a process to help you. One of the tools we do is these Get Ignited calls, where we feature really incredible people like Laura DeSaro. And we experience, you're going to see that Laura DeSaro is a woman who is inspired. And she's a lot of fun. I don't want to make it sound so serious. She's inspired. She's fun. She's a delight. But she's inspired. And she's somebody that when she experiences a spark, an aha moment or maybe I ought to try that, she actually does it. She's created more prototypes in her short life than a lot of inventors have created in a full lifetime. But what we're going to do is experience Laura DeSaro's sparks and her stories. And then we're going to think a little bit about ourselves. But we're going to find that when she shares her stories, there's a positively contagious element. So we get a little bit of ourselves. We can kind of catch this. This is the kind of thing we want to catch. So Laura DeSaro, she's here today. She's coming in from San Francisco. She lives with a really cool group of people, 20 people or 22 people in a cooperative of sorts in San Francisco. And Laura's had an incredible career. Shark Tank winner. We're going to talk about that. Forbes 30 under 30. She wasn't trying. It just happened. Two really crazy things. She's won Guinness Book of World Records. She has records to her name. She'll talk a little bit about that. So Laura, welcome. Maybe you just can say hello and then we'll step into your
Great. Well, hi everyone. So nice to meet you, Beth. What a wonderful introduction. I'm super excited to jump in here and let's get started.
Okay, let's get started. So everybody knows, well, I think you know by now, we've talked a little bit about it, and Michael did. Laura had this great success and has experienced great success with Chirps Chips, which is about really bringing us bugs, crickets, in the form of chirps, chips, and other forms, so that we can enjoy the most sustainable protein source. Tell us a smidge about it, Laura, and then we'll go back.
Awesome. Well, maybe with a show of hands, how many of you have eaten an insect before? Just raise your hand if you've eaten an insect. All right, I see some hands there. So basically that is what I do. So I have a company, it's called Chirps, and I actually brought a bag here so you can see what it is. You can see it says eat bugs on there, but they're cricket chips. We also have cricket cookie mixes and we have cricket protein powder. And the reason for this is that insects are one of the most sustainable protein sources on Earth. They're eaten all over the world. And our mission at Chirps is to get all of you excited about eating insects.
Okay, great. So this is one of Laura's, so remember when I talked about discovering your genius? One of what Laura's come to know, that one of her elements of genius is that she loves to get people, and she's good at getting people excited about something that they might have been resistant to originally or they just didn't know about. So bugs was a really great challenge. We're going to put that on hold for a minute and talk about how did this person come to be? Let's go back in time. You're a little girl, you're 15 years old. Just kind of set the stage for us, what it was like being you as a 15-year-old.
As a 15-year-old. So I grew up in Seattle, Washington. Had two kind of hippie parents, spent a lot of time outdoors. I have an older brother. He's 3 years older. And my older brother his name's Matthew. We're going to talk about him more, so good for you to know his name. And he's on the autism spectrum. So with that came this amazing gift. Matthew can fix anything. So like from the time he was maybe 4 years old, he could fix our car, our washer and dryer. He just has always loved doing that. And so me growing up, I was kind of the normal one in our family because I had this older brother who had some special needs in terms of like reading late and some of that, but also had this like amazing talent for fixing things. And both my parents are pretty technical too. So they were all off fixing things and working on things. My mom's a computer, like a software engineer, and my dad's an oceanographer. So they all had that. And then there was me trying to kind of figure out what my thing was and figure out what, I don't know, made me special, I'd say.
Okay, so think about that for each person on this call. We have these environments we're growing up in, right? And in Laura's case, she has all these people who are totally engaged in projects. And so it's really cool in your home. It's a culture to be totally engaged and immersed. So you saw what was going on at the playground.
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned I loved the outdoors, spent my childhood outside. And kind of the middle of this was this park that was just a few blocks away from my house. And I spent hours there, like swimming in the summer, playing on the playground when I was younger. And as the years went on, the playground just started to fall apart. It got old, pieces of equipment got taken out because of safety concerns. And basically, by the time I was 15, there was just a sand lot left with a few kind of broken pieces of playground equipment.
Okay, I want to invite everybody during this call, because you can't see yourself without the help of others. If you're admiring something, Laura, put it in the chat. If you're wondering something, throw it out there. And this is, I want to hear from you, and I'm going to guarantee you, Laura will love any observations you have about her. So this is what you go on to do. What do you do about this?
Yeah, so I had a best friend who was also one of the other people in the neighborhood. And so we got together and we were like, I wonder if we could raise enough money to fix the playground up a little bit. Like if this wasn't, we weren't really sure what was possible at this point. We thought maybe like the basketball court was super run down, maybe we could fix that up. And so we started a lemonade stand. There's a bike path that runs in front of the park and continues going. And so we put a lemonade stand up there. We were 15, so we were a little old for a lemonade stand, but didn't stop us, especially because we had this cause behind it. So we mixed up some lemonade, sat out there, and basically things started to happen. Neighbors started donating. After a couple weeks, the local news got involved. And suddenly it was like $10 and hundreds of dollars, and it started being thousands of dollars. And by the end of the summer, we raised $14,000 and we built a playground.
Okay, so this little bit of touch up ended up becoming something really big. And what did you learn from this experience? She ended up being able to transform the playground, right? Design something, so really make a difference. But what did you learn about yourself and what's possible?
This completely changed the way I saw myself and what was possible. Because before then, I didn't think of myself as someone who could make a difference in the world, who could make a change. And during that summer, someone mentioned the word social entrepreneur, which at the time I had no clue what it meant. And someone explained this meant using business for good. And it was just like a light bulb went off. It was like, this is what I want to do. Like, that summer was the best summer of my life. I was working super hard, but every day I would come home and dump out crushed dollar bills onto the carpet, count them out. And I could see it. I could see right in front of my eyes what every single day I was out there was doing. And eventually actually resulting in there still being a playground. If any of you guys are in the Seattle area, it's called Matthews Beach Park and it's still there today. So yeah, I never saw myself the same way again. I wanted to keep doing that kind of thing and realized that I could.
Okay, so this is so important for everybody on the call and for young people to understand. Okay, I want you to think back, everyone on the call, old and young. Think of something you wanted to make happen when you were a kid, whether you made it happen or not, because there are a couple things I really wanted to make happen and I didn't. It's okay. It still counts. Think about something right now and maybe jot it down for yourself. What was a dream you had when you were young? What was something you wanted to bring to life? Whether you did it or not, take just a minute. Okay. I'm going to promise you that what you've written down has some breadcrumbs that will help us in the discovery of your genius. So just keep those close to hand because it's not too late. Okay. And also the why behind it is usually very telling. And this is the sort of thing you can be exploring with your life ramp coach or on the Get Ignited calls. Okay, let's continue forward. I think you're a senior in high school, and sadly your grandmother was sick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about what you were doing then.
Yeah, so I've had this idea that I could make a difference, right? And I'd kind of been thinking about this. And so my high school had something called the Relay for Life, which maybe some of you have heard of. And it's a fundraiser for cancer. And my grandmother had just died of cancer, and I was trying to figure out something to do about this. And I was looking through a Guinness Book of World Records, trying to think if maybe I could break a world record or I mean, everyone, raise your hand if you've ever wanted to break a world record. I think this is something that I had certainly wanted to do, but I had realized through the lemonade stand that, maybe there was something in here that was actually possible. And I was leafing through, no, there's no way I can, do the most pull-ups. No, there's no way I can run the fastest mile. And then I came across this record for the fastest time to crawl 1 mile. And I had a flashback. I mentioned that my older brother, Matthew, is on the autism spectrum. And with that came a lot of developmental delays in terms of coordination. And so as little kids, we had done exercises around crawling. I mean, for years, we had crawled around our living room because crawling is a really good exercise for cross body motion and for development. And so I saw this record and I was like, I wonder if I could do this. And so I got out some knee pads. Oh, here I am. Yeah, so I literally duct taped my knees and duct taped my hands. And my mom was always telling me to take the dog for a walk. So I went out and just started crawling around my neighborhood and timing myself and seeing if maybe I could break this record and raise some money for cancer. And I mean, just one thing kind of led to another. You'll see on the back of the dog, it says world record in progress, and it says www.gocrawl.org. And so basically people would see me crawling around my neighborhood and crawling around the track, and they could figure out what I was doing by going to gocrawl.org and started donating. And by the time the record came around, we raised $5,000 and eventually actually broke the record with all of my high school classmates watching.
Okay, so this is an amazing story in terms of, think of this. I think there's some elements. So who designed your pads?
Oh, me. I mean, there wasn't really I tried searching, I don't know, what is it, crawling gear, but not much came up, right? So I just started making things.
Oh yeah, look at this. And the big crowd. And tell us, so you're crawling a mile. What's it like to crawl a mile?
It was really hard at first. I mean, the record was for 23 minutes, 45 seconds. The first time I did it, I think it took me almost an hour. And I mean, I got blisters on my hands and knees. But a lot of that was just I didn't have the right equipment. So I kept changing the equipment. I kept training. I mean, I must have trained for 4 months and gotten so many strange looks from neighbors. And I remember even I was crawling outside of my high school and one of my teachers pulled up and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I tried to explain, and he was my really tough history teacher. And he's like, "You had better get a perfect grade on our exam tomorrow. I don't know what you're doing, but
well, you
soon
soon
get your priorities straight."
Right, you soon learn. So talk about, didn't you set up a website? What was your website name? And
Yeah. Yeah, it was gocrawl.org. So you could go learn about what I was doing and also donate to the cause.
and they could, I thought your sign also said that, right? So if people saw you, she started to get so much attention as you would, right? If you're crawling and you're training and crawling. And actually, just for a fun little update, where are you now? You got the world record. There was a big celebration, but now with crawling.
Yeah, so I broke the world record in front of all my friends. It was great. Submitted everything to Guinness, waited for 3 months, and after 3 months, I got this rejection letter from Guinness. And the reason was because I did 4 laps around the inside of the track, which I thought was a mile, but it turned out it is 99.8% of a mile. So anyway, that just kind of sat for a while until now. And during quarantine, I've actually been retraining to break this world record 10 years later. And in less than a month, I'm going to do it again and get my name officially in that book.
Okay, so think of that, guys. Right during the quarantine and the global pandemic, Laura DeSaro has been in a park crawling, and you've had a lot of attention now crawling, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little strange at first. There's a marathon team that trains the same time as I crawl, and so for a while they weren't sure what to think, but now we're friends, and now they come and they, like, whenever I show up, they cheer me on, and a lot of them are going to serve as witnesses for the actual record.
Right, and I hope we can help too. One of the things I want you to do, as I'm telling you guys, is chat some things in, and I'm observing a few things about Laura. I'm sure you are too. Number one, as she said, at an early age, she learned anything's possible. All right, we're going to talk more about how that came to life in her career as well. And now you understand she's not afraid to be. A lot of people said that have said before, well, that might make me feel uncomfortable crawling. That's so unusual. But you're not uncomfortable doing things that are a little bit outside of the norm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I have this thing called the fun theory, and maybe now is a good time to talk about it, which is that I've come to believe that the best way to make change is through fun. Because I mean, a good example might be, PETA, the organization that's like protection for animals. If they had an Instagram page or social media that just showed like all of the tragedy and suffering of animals, no one would want to see that. They would just want to look away because we just don't want to think about what happens, with our meat and the mistreatment of animals. But if they were, so then basically, in order to get people to look at what you're doing and address difficult issues like cancer, like animal rights, you have to make it something people want to look at. And so, for example, with cancer, by doing something with crawling, it was so different and interesting that people wanted to know. They wanted to know what I was doing. They wanted to know how they could get involved. And so that's kind of what the fun theory is about, is making it something that people want to learn about and engage with issues. And so it's been a big part of my life, even into my adulthood, is not losing that spark.
And I think that's incredible. And it's one of the reasons that I love talking to you and are so excited that you're here for the launch of LifeRamp, because you do have that spark. And I think there's such an idea sometimes that when you enter into the adult world, you have to be so adult or whatever that means, right? And
I thought you did. I got really serious for a few years because I just thought that's what it meant to be an adult.
I can't imagine you so serious. And I'm so glad that we got you back into just being your full self. And really that's the goal, is to be your full self and then find some way to have that intersect with your passion and what you end up making in terms of impact with your life. So here you are in college, and if I'm not mistaken, and there's a lot of water under the bridge that we aren't covering today, a lot of experiences, but you were floundering a bit yourself at points.
Yeah.
What am I going to be when I grow up? But there's a couple of sparks that happened for you. Can you talk about the first spark in Africa?
Yeah, definitely. So I had decided I wanted to do social entrepreneurship. I wanted to make a difference in the world, but I just wasn't sure how. And so I decided to be an African studies major in college. So learned Swahili, went to East Africa. And while I was there, that was the first time that I ate an insect. I had a caterpillar from a street vendor in Tanzania. And what was interesting about it was that there and across the border in Uganda, it was very normal, in the same way that we might be standing on the street snacking on tortilla chips or peanuts. They were kids just eating insects. They were fried and seasoned and just sold by street vendors. And so I was a little curious, a little grossed out, but I bought one, bit down, and it was pretty good. It was salty. It was kind of like orange chicken, a little bit flavored. And so I got really curious, but I didn't think about it for a bit. I got back, and then about a year later, I came across an article about eating insects by the United Nations. And this article described that insects are one of the most sustainable protein sources on Earth. It talks about how more people eat insects than speak English, and even talked about all of the different kinds of insects all around the world that are eaten. like 2,000 different kinds of insects, some that are sour, some that are sweet. It's just basically this whole undiscovered food group. And I got pretty excited about this idea.
So this is this interesting moment, right? Where now we have the anything's possible part of you, but you are a little bit floundering and wondering where to
Yeah.
go next. There's this part of you that has this experience. It's curious, it's different, and a little bit of fun eating insects. And now you find out there's a need. This could be helpful. You're at the end of college at this point, is that right?
End of college, actually, I just graduated, was working at this like sustainable shoe company in Portland, Oregon, but not like loving it. I still just didn't feel like it was quite, wasn't quite what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what else to do.
Okay, so we're going to talk now about, so you recruit your best friend. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I'd spent a lot of time in college studying nonprofits and didn't have a ton of business experience. But one of my college roommates had done a lot of business. Her name's Rose, and she's now my co-founder, to give away the punchline there. But I realized I needed some help, so I called her up, and she was actually still in college. She'd taken off a semester to work at a startup. And I said, let's try it. Let's try this. And so I actually quit my job and moved back to college, kind of moved in with her in her college dorm a bit. And we started experimenting with this idea of, what could this look like? How could we actually get people to eat insects?
Okay, so what I love when you're talking to somebody, well, first of all, before we go to the easy steps, let's go to the razzle dazzle. So you end up, as you know, you're in Shark Tank. Just talk to us a little bit about the Shark Tank moment, and then kind of go back.
Yeah, for sure. So, there it is. There's Shark Tank. And I'm of course the one in the cricket outfit, which I built out of a laundry hamper. So about 4 years into our company, we auditioned for Shark Tank. We got on the show. We did a deal with Mark Cuban, and that kind of started this whole experience. We're now in about 1,500 stores. You can get us on Amazon, and has taken this from an idea to something that has, we now have employees, we now have, all of the kinds of things which I had not even imagined would have been possible when I was just at that dorm, starting to think about this idea.
Okay, so there's major razzle dazzle. You guys cut a deal on Shark Tank, and there's a lot that comes with that we'll talk about. So often when we're talking to somebody like you who's had such great success, it sounds like you started a business. You just started this really successful business. But really, let's talk about some of the ridiculously simple steps you took. First, you have an idea. You thought this idea could be something. Maybe I'll give it a try. But what are some of the first really simple steps you did?
I love this, Beth. I mean, this is probably the if there's one takeaway I want to have all of you take away, is just that, like, how easy it is to start some of these things. I mean, that's certainly how I felt at first, is looking at all these businesses. It just felt really impossible. But I don't think there's ever been a better time in history to start something. I mean, there's platforms like Etsy and Amazon, and I'm going to talk about how I did this full time, but also you can just have your idea and make it a reality and make it a side hustle, even when you're in high school, when you're in college. So happy to talk more about that, but simple steps. So I ended up in Boston with this college roommate who's still in school. And the first thing we did was we went to a Petco, and we just bought some insects, brought them back to our college dorm, and started cooking them up and trying to feed them to people.
All right, how'd it go? Tell us a little bit of the, can you guys imagine this? First of all, Laura Gazzara didn't know how to cook. Yeah, I'm pretty certain she had to go to a pan and find some oil, and you have these crickets. What did you do with the crickets? You put live crickets in? I mean, what'd you do?
Yeah, I mean, we Googled how to cook insects, which a couple things came up, but I was a college student. I had really never cooked. My mom's vegetarian, so I'd never even cooked shrimp or anything. I just poured some oil on the pan, and we had some crickets. We'd put them in the freezer, and we just kind of took them out and threw them on the pan and swirled them around with some salt, basically.
And what was the result?
Well, the first time it did not go well because we did not freeze the crickets long enough. So they all came back to life and like started hopping out of the pan, and it's not good.
Right. So talk about a moment. I can only imagine there's probably still crickets, and I think you've said before in the dorms at Harvard, right? From
Yeah,
your
there
experiment.
still could be. There's a good chance there are still crickets there.
Real survivor crickets. You know, they've got the ones that could survive. Okay, so then what'd you do?
So, I mean, we figured this out. We cooked them up, and we had a bunch of kind of crispy crickets. We put them on a plate, and we went and found anyone who would try them. Just, hey, Joe, you have a minute? And tried to feed them to people. I don't know. I feel like this is another question I should just ask people. If your crazy friend came up to you and tried to see if you want to eat whole crickets, how many of you would want to try them? I'm scrolling by here. Yeah, I don't see too many hands. And then what happened was that people were pretty freaked out. I mean, as Americans, we don't eat whole cows. We don't eat whole pigs. We don't even eat whole fish, right? Everything is nicely put into a little chicken nugget dinosaur shape. And that was kind of our experience, is people were really freaked out. And so our first attempt was definitely a failure.
All right, and you did end up having some success. Your first successful meal, you said, was taco. What was that turning point where you got your friends to like the?
Yeah. Well, we kind of realized this when we started asking people, like, why don't you want to eat this? And they were like, oh, there's legs. Oh, like, I mean, I'm sure these thoughts are coming to your head as you're thinking about eating an insect. And so we kind of took it like a science experiment. We're like, oh, interesting. You don't want to eat these because of legs. And we like literally wrote down on a list, no legs. And we used this and to figure out how we could put this into a better form. And so the first thing we did was just ground up the crickets. And made like a taco, and mixed it with other ingredients. And that was probably the first time people started eating them. Not everyone would eat them at that point, but we had more people eat them. And then our eventual form, which was what we use in our chips now, we basically make a powder out of them. It's called cricket powder or cricket flour, and it just looks like a whole wheat flour, and has a light nutty taste. And we realized that Americans are all about putting powders in their food, right? We put all sorts of powders, protein shakes, that kind of thing. And so then people started being a lot more open to the idea.
Okay, and how'd you land on chips as your first?
Mm-hmm. Well, it kind of went back to that list. Like one of the items on that list, along with no legs, was there's this ooey gooey idea around insects, right? Like you imagine Fear Factor and like eating a bucket of worms. So we wanted to get as far away from that as possible. And chips are crunchy. Chips are also a junk food and chips don't have much nutrition in it. And crickets are about 70% protein. They're super high protein and nutrient dense. And so we realized if we put crickets into chips, we could make something that had extra nutritional benefits, which as you see on here, let's see if I can find it. Oh, right there. It says 5 grams of protein. So that's a lot for chips. And so we knew we could add this added nutritional element to a product.
So your ultimate you thought, I wonder if I could get people excited about, eating insects. And how many people, tell us your result, your ultimate result. How many people are eating them now? As a result of chirps?
Yeah, somewhere, probably close to 1 million people we've gotten to eat insects because of our products at this point.
And there we are. Top picture, Laura.
Oh, right. Okay. So at first we just were in a few natural food stores, that kind of thing. And then the first really big order we got was from a kids' summer camp, a nationwide summer camp that was going to get kids excited about eating insects and do it as part of their education. And so they ordered 10,000 pounds of chirps. But they actually only ended up using about 8,000 pounds. They kind of over-ordered a bit. So we had 2,000 pounds of chirps that were left over, and we were just going to have to throw them out if we couldn't think of something to do with them. And so I had this idea that we could make the world's largest nachos. And so here they are. These are all of my friends from San Francisco and my brother and anyone else we could get to help. And we just put on this giant nacho party and invited the entire city of San Francisco to come eat nachos and learn about eating insects. And this was on Earth Day.
So another incredibly creative idea of what to do with your extra 2,000 pounds of chips. genius, actually. Okay, so right now I want to remind everybody, please chirp in, if you don't mind, some of the qualities you're seeing in Laura DeSaro or what you're wondering about. But I also want you to think about, Laura DeSaro, as you're looking back on this, can you share a couple of lessons that you have with people, just a few more lessons or things that come to mind for you about helping others access their inner spark?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, the biggest difference that happened in my life, it wasn't really that I changed that much, because I think we all have these kinds of ideas going on in our heads. But I just didn't used to act on them. Like, I just used to think it was too hard, or, I don't know. It didn't feel possible for me. And I guess I've leaned more into just wondering, like, what's the simplest thing I could possibly do? I mean, even now, Beth and I talk a lot about the kind of side projects I have going on. Like right now, a friend was was trying to figure out a better way to make a hair curling device, and out of a scarf. And so, but she wasn't so sure if it was possible. And I was like, let's try it. So, just got down and got a scarf out of my closet and started wrapping my hair around it. And, it's those kinds of ideas. Like, everyone has these thoughts of, like, what if this could happen? And I think that kind of that, just doing something with that, like when you have that inspiration, it doesn't have to be build a whole company. It doesn't have to be, raise hundreds of dollars. It can be like, what's like the simplest possible thing I can do with this initial energy?
All right, and I love it. And talk about how you feel about failure. So with this new idea, you said the other day, you're going to put it up and you fully expect what to happen?
Oh yeah, right. So like, I've got this it's called a curl scarf. It's like a scarf you curl your hair with, and you tie it up, and you look cute when you wear it, and then your hair looks cute when it comes out. And we have a prototype, and I like the prototype and I use it. But when I put it on Amazon, that's basically the plan, to put it on Amazon. We made 50 of them, got it by hand, like got a friend who could help sew. And I fully expect that people are going to hate it. Like, there's going to be things that are wrong with it that I don't even know yet. And people are going to write that all over Amazon and tell us all the things that are wrong with it. But then that's great, because we can take all of those things and make a better model. And then I'll take that listing off of Amazon and then repost it later when I have the next updated version.
So that's such a great reminder for each of us. I think so often when we get bad feedback, it can be paralyzing, right? Where we think, oh my gosh, it's terrible. And it can, but what you're saying is, no, it's great information. And
yeah,
we're keep moving forward and have fun with it. And that's how we stay with gain momentum in life.
Yeah, there's kind of this beginner's mindset. Like, once we have something, then we like suddenly feel like we need to be somebody, or like be good enough, or which is, I think, kind of hard. So that's something that I like try to keep. When I think the first time I mentioned was with the insects, when people were rejecting it and saying, ew, I won't eat these whole insects. I was a little bit discouraged at first, because it felt like it wasn't going to work. But then when they started telling me why they didn't like it, that suddenly gave me information and something to do with it, and like a path forward. That's kind of the way I like to look at it.
So important, especially for people who are perfectionists, right? And I think a lot of this younger generation are so talented, they're so good, that there's an effort, a desire to be perfect. And maybe parents have put this on our kids. I don't know. And perfectionism can say, tell us a little. Perfectionism can get in the way of moving forward and doing something great. Okay, Tell us about this, Laura.
Yeah, so something kind of crazy happened when we went on Shark Tank, which is that a book agent reached out and said that they wanted to make a book about entrepreneurship for kids. And so this is the book cover of a book that's going to be coming out next spring. It's called Project Startup. And you can see the beautiful depiction that the character on the left loosely represents me. And it's kind of about the story of chirps, and about and it's a book for like 9 to 12-year-olds, so like late elementary school, early middle school, with some of these themes around how do you build your own business, and how do you it's about eating insects. So some of these themes around like, how do you get over fear? How do you work with people who are different than you? Some of that.
Okay, awesome. I love that. And it's really going to help so many people. And if you're on the call now, think about what happened with Laura is she was just wondering about something when she started Chirps, wondering, could I help? Could I get people to fall in love with eating insects or be willing to try it? Could I make it fun? And then she learned from the UN that it could be helpful. The reason I'm mentioning this is, what's something you on the call are wondering about in your world? Something you kind of are curious about. Curiosity can be an incredibly powerful sensation. And just wonder, write down right now, something you're wondering about in your world. Maybe you don't have to start a business that's going on Shark Tank, but what if you just took a step forward with this little thing you're wondering about? What is it? I give you a minute. So this wouldn't be a Get Ignited call if we didn't talk a little bit about strengths and your genius. And if we didn't think a little bit about our own genius. Sometimes, Laura, when we're dealing with somebody like you who's made so much happen, it seems like it's so far out there. Oh my gosh, I couldn't do this. But what I know for sure is that each person can tap into their genius, and that there's something really powerful in each person that they don't fully realize, they don't even know. I'll guarantee you, if you're on this call and you're listening, if I complimented you, if somebody complimented you in your area of genius, and I'm not talking about book smarts, although I think that's really important. And your genius can be in that category, but I'm not talking about your ability to get an A on a test. I'm talking about something that when you do it, it is so helpful to the situation that it's genius. So I can guarantee you, if somebody complimented you in your area of genius, that you would dismiss it because it comes so naturally you don't even know it matters. Some people on this call are really good at listening. Somebody might say, oh, they're an introvert. They don't speak that much. No, actually what they're doing is listening. Really a rare and powerful thing to do. And those people often have tremendous observations about what's happening in a situation. What were you just thinking, Laura, about genius and the folks on the call?
Oh,
I didn't know if you were just saying something, but here's what I want to ask you guys on this call. Take a minute and list your top 3 strengths. What are your strengths? Everybody's going to take a minute to do it. And we're going to think about our own genius. So take a minute and write it down. And I'm going to tell you that I've asked thousands of people that question. Sometimes people are really old. It's a little bit challenging to answer sometimes. And then I'm going to ask you, Laura, yours. You're
all right.
And I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers to share theirs. So you've had a minute, and this is the test that you can cheat on. So if you hear somebody say something that you like, you can steal it shamelessly. Cheating is allowed in this sense. This is where borrowing what somebody else said or their own genius actually is cool because it's contagious. It's like, oh, I think I have that too. I forgot about that. Okay, Laura, what's one of your strengths?
All right, sounds good. We've done this a few times, so it was a lot harder for me the first time. Well, one thing I think is that I have a short distance between having an idea and doing something about it, which you talked about a little bit. And I didn't even think that was a strength because I just naturally do it. In fact, some people have criticized me for just being a little too quick, like not thinking things through. But I think in a lot of ways that can be so helpful because I get a prototype down and get things started. So that's one of my strengths.
I love it. And I think that's a really important thing, you guys, is sometimes every strength is attached to a weakness and every weakness is attached to a strength. So for instance, if you're really spontaneous, you might not like planning that much and you could have been criticized your whole life. You don't plan enough. But now we're going to look at the inverse of that is, you know what? You're really good at thinking on your feet. Wow, that's powerful. So in your own lives, I'm not talking just about you, Laura, about everybody on this call. Sometimes we've been criticized for something that's attached to one of our greatest strengths. And sometimes we've been so caught up in being criticized about it that we haven't taken the time to really see the asset. So in your case, get into action. My God, you're making pads. You've got bubble wrap on your knees. You're, a high school kid, and you're making pads and you're learning to crawl comfortably and swiftly, right? You get in action.
Mm-hmm.
Terrific strength, and it served you
Yeah.
really well. Let's talk about it. Anybody? Okay. I was asking you, Laura, one more of your strengths, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going
Oh,
to.
great.
Is anybody on this call willing to volunteer a strength? Marion Chesterton, if you can hear me, or anybody willing to volunteer one of your strengths? Says jump out.
I would say that. Oh, can you mute your thing, Deb?
Is this Nick?
Sorry, the audio is like reverberating.
Yeah.
I would say that one of my strengths is probably, I feel like I'm a pretty understanding person. I don't really get mad at people for that long. I'd also say that I'm not really scared of trying something, like an idea or something. I don't know.
Okay, is this Nick Bede? I think it was Nick Bede. But first of all, listen to those strengths. Those are so powerful. I don't get mad that long. That is an amazing strength. Probably there's some patience there. Now, what I'd like to do, and I'm curious about, we can do on another call, is dig into that. So, wow, tell me more about that. Where do you think it comes from? How has it helped you in your life? So thank you for volunteering your strengths. We can go further with that. Would anybody else like to volunteer a strength?
Remaining kind in difficult situations is something I've had to do.
Okay, fantastic. So that comes in handy in high school.
Yeah.
Are you a senior?
Yeah, I'm a senior.
So how has that quality served you in this really rare situation that we're all living through, the quarantine?
Well, it's a really good way to meet good people and find good people, especially, when you're remaining kind. And even if people are struggling, it's good to just have someone that's kind of by you, that's being positive in these situations. So I think that kind of like my optimism at times and with, being kind has helped me to be really productive and kind of encourage my friends to be productive as well.
Okay, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Fantastic. What's your second strength?
I guess I kind of said remaining positive. Like I try to be a very positive person. I moved states in the middle of high school, and it kind of something that I wanted to do was try and stay positive in that situation to try and get into doing a lot of different things. So I think remaining positive in difficult situations is just a strength that I've had, and I've tried to kind of use and grow from. And it's hard at times, but it kind of helps me.
Okay, I thank you so much for offering that. And I want everybody on the call to think about, how does it make you feel to hear people describing their strengths? One more person, strength, a quick strength here. And I'm going to call on you. Yeah, there we go, Marion.
I'm perseverant.
Talk a little bit about it.
Say some situations that have been difficult for me, I've learned why they've been difficult and tried to move forward and push through.
Okay, very, very powerful. I know Marion, she's my daughter, so thank you for volunteering. I appreciate that. But and it's true about you. And so we just got a taste right here of hearing a few people share their strengths. And a big part of LifeRamp is to pair people up with coaches with experiences like this, where we get to really marinate in the subject of who are your best and what do you have to work with, because it can really set you on the path to experiencing tremendous joy and building confidence and optimism and resilience but also really getting this part of you. Now, right now, I'm asking you to describe your strengths, but I'm also saying you can't see yourself without the help of others. That's where other sets of eyes and some really cool coaching processes and some really cool experiences help very much. As we wrap this up, I want to thank Laura DeSaro for sharing so many of your stories, because it certainly ignites something in the listener, a little bit of a willingness to go out and try something, move forward. Laura, in closing, do you have anything you'd like to say to the folks on the call?
Yeah, well, I'm just excited for everybody. And if there's ever anything that I can do, I always offer to give out my email. So I'll put it in the chat. And if I can help with any of your dreams, you want to start a business, you want to do something, and you think I could help, let me know. I'll just say this, I say this all the time, and hardly anybody actually does it. So this is kind of a challenge for you. If you do have a way I can help, please let me know.
Think of that, stepping out there and doing it. And John B's asking, what's next for you, Laura? What's on the horizon? If I'm not mistaken, Laura DeSaro, you just had your last day at Chirps, even though you're still the founder and you're still involved. But what's your next chapter look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So it's been 6.5 years that I've been at Chirps. And after 6.5 years, our director of sales is finally taking over as CEO from me, and I'll be attending Stanford Business School in the fall, and hopefully discovering all sorts of other parts of business and other parts of myself. So I'm pretty excited.
And so she's going to continue. It'll be interesting to see the next way that Laura comes to life. I look forward to getting to know each of you on the call. If there's anything I can do to help as you discover your genius, please let Michael and John, the folks at LifeRamp know, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks for participating today.
Beth, I really appreciate you, and Laura, thank you so much for providing, shedding some light, because sometimes when people, that maybe have experiences 20 or 30 years, that's very helpful. But, you're somebody for young people that are going to college or in college, you're just 5 or 7 years ahead of them. And really imagining that, what I got out of it is your story is, you can really do anything, take the baby steps, go for it. The time you can take risk is when you're younger. And so that's been very helpful. So thank you very much for joining and hosting this, Beth. In leaving, I would like to say we are going to be, the people that attended and even the people, we have recorded this and we'll be posting this, but we are going to be offering actually 3-month-long scholarships for LifeRamp. So those of you that are going into college or in college or interested in getting your own coach, that's something that we're going to be offering. So we'll send a short survey after this call. And if you would like to participate in that, answering 3 or 4 questions, you'll get a chance. Hopefully you can have your own Beth and or Laura moving forward. So that would be exciting. In closing, I'm going to just show a short little video. Gives you just a little bit of, it's more of a tribute versus a corporate video, but we're just really excited about everything that the class of 2020 has accomplished. And we would just like to share that in closing. And thanks again for everybody joining the call. So I'll just bring this up and we'll close the meeting out.
Thanks, Michael.
And it's time to get back out there. Let LifeRamp help guide the way and help you find the college, career, and life of your dreams. LifeRamp can help you make the choices to get you where you want to be. And for many, that starts with college. Roll Tide!
Go Bears, baby. Go Quakers. Go Dogs.
Go Elon.
Roll Dips, baby.
Spellbound!
Go Orange.
Go Dartmouth!
Go Harvard.
College is a huge step, but you won't be alone. With the latest job and market intelligence, LifeRamp has a team of world-class, internationally certified life coaches to help you get the most out of your college years and launch you into a fulfilling and successful career. LifeRamp's top industry mentors, life coaches, academic experts, and career lab will help you see your future and chart a path to seize it. LifeRamp will help lift you up to where you want to go. Visit liferamp360.com to see how life coaching can accelerate your success.
LifeRamp is coming with me.
LifeRamp's coming with me.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening. And Beth, once again, thank you very much. And Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.
Take care.